بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نويت التعلم وتعليم التذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. من كتاب النصائح الدينية والوصايا الإيمانية للشيخ الحبيب عبد الله بن علوي الحداد ونفع بعلومه وبكم وسائر الصالحين في الدارين آمين. The book is the Counsels of Religion, the chapter on ilm, page number 55. The alim, well versed in the outward matters of deen, should add to this the ilm of the inward attributes, such as the attributes of the heart, ilm of the secrets of works and of the things that blemish them, and the promises and the threats in the Quran and the Sunnah concerning the rewards of those who do good and the punishment of evildoers. In this way will an alim complete himself and become fully beneficial both to himself and others. For these sciences cannot become complete with each completing the other, and they were the sciences of our virtuous ancestors, as will be recognized by anyone who pursues their biographies. Ilm of the inward cannot stand independently from ilm of the outward. Similarly, outward ilm cannot be complete without the inward. As for the ilm of promises and threats, it is because they arouse the desire to live according to the injunctions of the law and to virtue and the fear of falling into prohibited things and vices. It is unbecoming of an alim to speak of the rulings concerning certain obligations, other virtuous works, or certain prohibited things, then when requested to produce some of what Allah and Rasulullah have to say on this, prove incapable of quoting any relevant text. It is but the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah that the dilatation of the breasts of believers occur and their hearts find peace and the resolution increases. Reflect on this passage and study it well. Acquire a sufficient amount of each of these three sciences: the science of the outward rulings concerning acts of worships and transactions, the science of inward things such as good character and the attributes of the heart, and the science of promises and threats, which is what has been received from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam concerning the merits of acts of obedience, which are the promises, and the punishment of evil deeds, which are the threats. It is a most emphatic duty upon ulama to do their best to disseminate this ilm, which no Muslim would fail to benefit from, and to spread it and teach it to every single Muslim. When sitting with the common people, an alim should talk only of the duties and forbidden things, supererogatory devotions, and rewards and punishments for good and bad behavior. His words should be easy to understand and clear, so that his listeners recognize and understand them. He should expend more effort in clarifying those things which he knows they actually do. He should not remain silent until asked about something which he knows they need and which is necessary for them, for his ilm of their need is tantamount to their asking him. Most common people have become neglectful in matters of religion as concerns both ilm and works. The ulama should not help them in this by failing to teach and guide them, for then everyone will perish and hardship will increase. We seldom question a common man, and most people are common people, without finding him ignorant of duties, forbidden things, and matters of religion which it is neither permissible nor acceptable not to know. Even in the event of his not being ignorant of all of them, he will be found ignorant of some, and in the event when you find him aware of some of these things, he will have learned them from other common people, so that you should wish to turn what he knows into ignorance. You can do so with little effort, for it has no basis and is unsound. When the seeker of ilm comes to an alim, the latter should decide whether he is qualified to understand and able to devote his time fully to studying. Then he may counsel him to read books. But if he is a common Muslim, only wishing to learn the obligatory minimum, he should teach him verbally, explain, make him understand, be brief, and not ask him to read books that he may not understand, nor have the time for, nor need most of what they contain. For the need of common people in the way of ilm are little. The ulama, especially those who are judges, must counsel the common Muslims who come before them with litigations. They must put fear into them with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Speak harshly to them and threaten those who make false claims are guilty of perjury, testify falsely, are guilty of corrupt transactions such as usury and so on. They should tell them what the sacred law says concerning how forbidden such things are and how severe their punishment is. This is because ignorance is so widespread, and also greed and the lack of concern of religion. How many a common Muslim, having heard how lying about claims, testimonies, and oaths is forbidden, has backed up from things that, owing to his ignorance, he had decided to do. In sum, it is important for the ulama to sit with the people, to talk to them about the religious sciences and explain them to them. They should discourse upon the matter which they came to them for. For instance, if they have come for a marriage contract, then they should speak to them about the rights of women in terms of dowry, current expenses, gentle treatment, and so on. But if they have come to them to record in writing a commercial transaction, they should speak to them of valid and invalid transactions, the duties of the witnesses, and so on. Thus, by Allah, is better and more appropriate in such situations than to talk of that which is of no use and is connected neither with the matter at hand nor with deen. An alim should not chat with those who chat.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم لا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا ولا إلى أحد من خلقك طرفة عين ولا أقل من ذلك وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وعلى آبائه وإخوانه من الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى ملائكة الله المقربين وجميع عباد الله الصالحين وعلينا معهم وفيهم إنه أكرم الأكرمين وأرحم الراحمين. أما بعد، فيواصل الإمام الحداد من كتاب النصائح الدينية والوصايا الإيمانية في باب العلم مما ينبغي للعالم بأمور الدين الظاهرة أن يضيف إلى ذلك، وهو من وظائف العلم العلم بالأخلاق الباطنة من صفات القلوب، أي أن العالم لا بد أن يتحلى the scholar he should have over and above the qualities of the zahir, of the outward, that he should have the knowledge of the akhlaq of the inward. الأخلاق الباطنة من صفات القلوب والعلم بأسرار الأعمال وآفاتها، أي لا بد أن يكون على علم ودراية بما حوته الأعمال والعبادات من بواطن ومن أسرار وما هي آفات تلك الأعمال. Meaning that he needs to know what that actions and what those a'mal entail over and above its outward requirements and requisites, what its inner benefits are and what its inner pitfalls are. وقد أشبع الكلام في هذا الإمام الغزالي في ربع العبادات من كتابه إحياء علوم الدين، حيث تحدث عن الآداب الباطنة لكل عبادة. Al-Imam Al-Ghazali, in his Ihya Ulumuddin, in the first chapter or the first quote of his book, he spoke about the inward a'mal and the secrets of the ibadat and its pitfalls. والعلم بالوعد والوعيد الواقعين في الكتاب والسنة مع ذكر ثواب المحسنين وعقاب المسيئين. And he should also have the knowledge of that which is promised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regards to certain actions, and what is in terms of reward and in terms of punishment. And if he says for a scholar to be speaking about the topic and he cannot recall the ayat in relation to that topic or a hadith, he says it is not befitting for a scholar when he is addressing a certain topic that he just speaks about it without relating that back to the Quran and the Sunnah, and he just speaks from his own desires. It should be a basis upon which he departs from And the best basis to depart from is the kalam of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah. Whilst the kalam of the salihin and the kalam of the salaf and kalam of the awliya, it is a very beneficial thing. But many people may not relate to that which you are speaking about, because simply they don't have an affinity to that scholar that you are speaking of. A person quotes statements of Imam Shafi'i, for example, but within the gathering you have so many people that are Ahnaf, and they don't relate to Imam Shafi'i's statement as much as you would relate to it. And as a result of that, they don't take maximum benefit. But if you were to bring it back to the Quran and to the Sunnah, that is the basis through which every believer he has in common. And so speak to them based on the Quran and Imam Al Haddad. So speak to them based on the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, لأن صدور المؤمنين إنما تنشرح بكلام الله وبكلام رسوله. That the sudur of the believers, the hearts of believers are contented when they hear Allah said and Rasulullah said. Now you say this, and there's nothing wrong in saying that the scholar said so, and this sheikh said so, and that wali said so, and this. There's nothing wrong with it. But let your basis where you always depart from, where you start and begin is يقول الله تعالى قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and then upon that you build your discussion. But don't build your discussion on an edifice that has no substance from the book of Allah and from the kalam of Zayn al-Wujud sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for many reasons. The kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala contains such wisdoms that if I was to read it and you was to listen to it, everyone could potentially take a meaning home different to the other person. Because the kalam has a zahir and it has a batin, unlike any other kalam. It has an outer meaning and it has an inner meaning to it, that every single person, he can relate to it and relates to it differently. A person can, in Salat al-Tarawih, for example, stand behind and everyone is listening to the same juz, but people are taking different meanings home. Not only are they taking different meanings home based on what they understand from what is being read, even those who do not understand Arabic are able to relate to the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when Allah places within their hearts certain meanings and certain understandings of what had been read. Yani, what relates to him in his life at that point in time. He sits and he's standing in salah and he's listening to the Imam, he's reciting. And maybe he just identifies one word of what the Imam is reading or what the Qari is reading. And that word, Allah through it opens up meanings to him in his heart that relates to a problem or situation that he is currently finding. Just one word. And for all you know, that the context of that ayah is very different to what he actually took. But because it's the kalam of Allah, such is the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kalam qadeem, la yumallu hadithuha. It is pre-eternal words with no beginning, which a person never ever becomes bored in repeating it. The more you repeat it, what Imam Shatibi says, وَتَرْدَادُهُ يَزْدَادُ فِيهِ تَجَمُّلًا. Imam Shatibi in his Hirz al-Amani, which is the Sab'a Shatibi, he says that the more the person repeats it, the more it increases in beauty. The more you repeat the Quran, وَتَرْدَادُهُ يَزْدَادُ فِيهِ تَجَمُّلًا. وحيث الفتى يرتاع في ظلماته من القبر يلقاه سنا متهللا. When the person is laying in the darkness of his grave, then the Quran comes and it brings about happiness in his grave to him, and it brings him light in his qabr, the Quran. هنالك يهنيه مقيلا وروضة ومن أجله في ذروة العز يناشد في إرضائه لحبيبه. So then he says, فيا أيها القاري به متمسكا مجلا له في كل حال مبجلا. Oh, reciter of the Quran who's holding onto the recitation, holding firm onto its meanings and understanding and implementation, constantly reading it with respect and with honor and with dignity. هنيئا مريئا والداك عليهما ملابس أنوار من التاج والحلى. That glad tidings to your parents, they will be adorned on the day of Qiyamah with garment of light and a crown. He says, فما ظنكم بالنجل عند جزاء فما ظنكم بالنجل عند جزائه أولئك أهل الله والصفوة. Yeah. So the Quran, the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as Imam Al Haddad, he says, ألا إنه البحر المحيط وغيره من الكتب أنهار تمد من البحر. That it is the ocean of which all other books and all other knowledge, it receives its sustenance through the Quran. The Quran is the mainstream of which all other knowledge receives the sustenance through the Quran. He says, تدبر معانيه ورتله خاشعا تفوز من الأسرار بالكنز والذخر. Ponder about its meanings and recite it with humility and sincerity and understanding, and then Allah through that will grant to you that you will gain the inner secrets of the Quran and the treasures that is contained within the Quran. Now, so he says, فأتأمل, ponder about this, ponder well about it, and وخذ من هذه العلوم الثلاثة قدرا صالحا وهي علم الأحكام الظاهرة من العبادات والمعاملات وعلم الأمور الباطنة من الأخلاق وأوصاف القلوب وعلم الوعد والوعيد وأعني ما ورد عن الله وعن رسوله فضل الطاعة. He says these three things. The one is the علم الأحكام الظاهرة, the knowledge of the أحكام, the different rules, عبادة, صلاة, zakah, fasting, etc. And then الأحكام, الأمور الباطنة, the inner dimensions of ibadah, akhlaq, the conditions of the heart, the pitfalls, the شو يسمى the good traits and the vile traits of the heart. And علم الوعيد, the third one is the knowledge of the reward and the punishment, to know what reward is attached to everything and what punishment is attached to it. وهو الوعد وعقاب السيئات وهو الوعيد. So the fadl of the ta'at, the bliss, the favors of the ta'at, and the rewards of every act of obedience is called al-wa'd, the promise, وعقاب السيئات وهو الوعيد, and the punishment that is attached to every transgression. That is the third category that the alim should know. And when he speaks to the amma, the masses, and he sits with them, he should speak to them about those things. في بيان الواجبات والمحرمات ونوافل الطاعات وذكر الثواب. Those are the things that he should be speaking to them about. And his speech should be very clear, to an extent where they understand and they are able to relate to it. And he should clarify to them if they are uncertain, if there's certain things that are unclear to them. He should not remain silent. He should not remain silent if he knows that they are in need of that information. As you know, I'm not going to tell, I don't want to tell you too much. Je wil nie vir hulle te veel, dan gaat hulle alles ken. Dan wat gaat ek môre sê? But you shouldn't, they have a statement in a قاعدة فقهية that says لا يجوز تأخير البيان عن وقت الحاجة. You can't delay the bayan, the clarification of something beyond the time that it is required to be clarified. If you are in a situation where a person requires that matter to be clarified, say, I can't, I'll speak to you, I'll tell it to you again. But I need to know it now. You know, next time, inshallah, when I feel ready to speak to you about it, then I will. You know, when the person is in that situation, then that is when he needs to know about it, and he needs to be spoken about it. And if you know it, that's a different thing. The person doesn't know. But if you know the answer, and you have the solution to him, for him to that situation he finds himself in, it is your duty to explain it to him and not withhold that information from him. Else, you will become guilty of a person who makes kitman of his ilm, who withholds knowledge. وَمَنْ كَتَمَ عِلْمًا مِمَّا يُبْتَغَى بِهِ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى, as Rasulullah says, the one who withholds knowledge that is for Allah that is attained for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning knowledge of the deen, أَلْجَمَهُ اللَّهُ بِلِجَامٍ مِّن نَارٍ, he will be bridled on the day of Qiyamah with a bridle of fire. He will be bridled or bridled?
Bridled.
Bridled. He will be bridled with a bridle of fire. You know what's a bridle? You don't know what's a bridle? What's a bridle?
For the horse.
Goes through the horse.
For the horse's mouth.
The thing that they put in the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
The horse is like a metal thing. So that will be, that's like a metal thing, yeah. So that will be a fire. Why? Because why he is supposed to convey, he's supposed to speak, but he didn't. He withheld the knowledge. He shouldn't. ولا يسكت. He shouldn't remain silent. And even though if they didn't ask for it, if he knows that they needed knowledge, he says his knowledge of that which they require is in itself a question that had not been asked by them. It is like the state is asking you the question. Like the person, if you're sitting together and you see the condition that they need, this person or 2 or 3 people, this is a matter that needs to be addressed. But the person doesn't want to ask. He feels too shy to ask. The scholar, when he is addressing and he sees that there's a need to address that matter, and even though they do not want to ask, the very fact that this state speaks about the situation that they need to know it, even if their tongue didn't utter the question, you should respond to it. So he says it is as if the state is asking you, and therefore you need to respond to them, even if the lisan, the tongue didn't ask the question. And then he says, the masses, it has become a common thing for them that they are very relaxed when it comes to the matters of the deen. Ilman wa amalan, both seeking it and practicing upon it. Very serious, they take the matters of the dunya. Everything must be on its place. Everything must, all policies needs to be followed, all protocols needs to be followed, all boxes has to be checked, all your T's have to be crossed, all your I's needs to be dotted. Everything that you in the financial sector, one mistake, your license is taken away from you. Right? If you guilty of not following the law, then you can be disciplined, and you can your professional license or authority to trade can be taken away from you. And so in many industries, in medicine, medical, in engineering, right? But how many of those believers, they don't comply with the laws of Sharia? They don't follow the policies, they don't follow the laws, they don't follow the protocols. They make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are, everything is, all the boxes are checked. But when it comes to deen of Allah, no boxes are checked. And everything is just sabah lala, bisahala. Everything is just so, easy, it's okay. So you see, that is generally the condition of the amma, the masses, is that when it comes to the deen, there's a sense of, it's easy, it's okay. Fala, he says, the ulama should therefore not aid them in that by remaining silent when they are given the opportunity to teach and to guide, because that will only increase the extent of the destruction, and it will increase the extent of the bala. And he says most of the people, when they are being questioned or they are asked something, you'd find that they are actually jahil with the very wajibat, the fara'id. And yet the fara'id is the minimum in order for a person to be saved on the day of Qiyamah. like your wajibat is like your structure. Your structure. Without the structure, you don't have much. And the muharramat, the wajibat, the muharramat, those things are what you must have. It is essential. So he says most of them are jahil with regards to the wajibat and the muharramat. وبأمور الدين التي لا يجوز ولا يسوغ الجهل بشيء منها, and they are ignorant with regards to certain things of the deen that you cannot afford not to know, that you should not be ignorant about. And he says if he knows something, then he knows it based on the fact that he heard it from someone. Ek het gehoor iemand het so gesê. It's not something that he learned. You know, he just heard it so by the way. You know, it's some mense sê so, some mense sê so. It's not concrete knowledge. It's not concrete knowledge. Like he just got quoted so by the way, just someone is speaking about it and just quoted so by the way. Meaning he didn't study his deen. So therefore he says, وَيَنْبَغِي لِلْعَالِمِ إِذَا جَاءَهُ مَنْ يَطْلُبُ الْعِلْمِ أَنْ يَنْظُرَ فِيهِ. So the scholar, when a person comes to him and he wants to seek knowledge, he must first look at the person, the condition of the person, condition of the talib, the seeker. إن كان فارغا ومتأهلا لفهم العلم فليأمره بقراءة الكتب. The person comes and he says, I want to learn my deen. You look at him. You see, does he have the time? Does he have the capacity? Is he busy? Is he occupied? If he's occupied, if he's not occupied and he's free, then you can tell him, okay, start reading books, start this book, that book, and you can start teaching him. But he says, وَإِنْ كَانَ عَامِّيًا, and if it is a ammi, a common person that he just wants to learn the necessary, then he should teach it to him verbally, right there and then. Teach him, explain it to him. And he shouldn't drag it out and tell him you must come sit in my class for 5 years in order to learn the essentials of the deen. The essentials of the deen is very little. Very little. Like the iman, the essentials of the salah, and when it comes to the essentials of tahara, very few things. Iman, essentials of tahara, najasat, essentials of salah. When it comes to the month of Ramadan, essentials of the fasting, and when his money is nisab, essentials of zakah, when he has the opportunity now to go for essentials of hajj, and that is tadrijiyan. He doesn't need to know Ramadan, the fasting ahkam now, right now. He now needs to know what's it to believe in Allah, what is the to believe in Rasulullah, what's it to believe in all the prophets, what is the essentials, the arkan al-iman, the arkan al-islam, just the basics. He needs to understand ijmalan, holistically or in general, not in detail. Not what is the definition of zakah, and what is the shurut of zakah, and what is the nisab of zakah, and what's the different types of zakah, and how much in every, if there's how many sheep, how much must I give, and what's the nisab of dhahab and fidda, and mu'ashirat, and urud tijara. They don't need to know all of those things. Just shahada, salah, 5 salahs, zakah. If you have the nisab, then we can speak about zakah. We speak about what is your nisab. Is it in wealth? Is it in business implements? What is it? Is it in livestock? Your month of Ramadan. We speak about the month of Ramadan. It's not Ramadan. Okay, it's not essential now. Ons praat nou van die salah. Salah. How do you clean yourself? How do you remove najasa? How do you purify yourself from a minor hadath, a major hadath, and how do you perform salah? This is فَلْيُلَقِّنُهُ, that it can be taught verbally as the person is sitting with you. But now tell him, you want to learn the deen, you must first come, and I want to see how punctual you are, and you must make me a cup of coffee first. I want to see, you must come to me before Fajr, an hour before Fajr, to see if you're serious to learn. This is yani, if you want a person to learn the essentials of deen, then those things are not required. If you want to make if you have a student of Deen and you want to make tarbiyah the student of Deen is a different thing. They the scholars have different methods in how they make tarbiyah. But the Ammi, the general person, why make the Deen difficult? Why make it difficult? Why? Because I now, ja, maar ik het voor jaren gestudeerd, nou kom maar in het en je wil niet zo die Deen kolja in 5 minuten. Wie ik moest je zo niet. You must. No, you must not. You must not. He needs to know what he needs to, essential things so he can be saved. So he can be saved. And if you don't understand it as a scholar, that he has a haqq upon you, that you must teach him the essentials of his deen, that he can be saved, then you are sharikun fil itham. Then you are a partner in his crime, a partner in his sin, because you have aided him not to learn the essentials of his deen. So simplify the deen for the awam. Times now the person now says, I'm going to leave my job now. I want to study the deen for a few years. I know I'll get it. No, he's in a paksala. Right now, because now it's a different thing. He's going to become a talib of deen. I understand the hayba of ilm. And one day when he is a scholar, he needs to understand what he has. He needs to have ta'zeem of the deen. A person who studies the deen and doesn't have ta'zeem of the deen will never attain the nur of the deen. Will never attain the light of deen. The light of ilm will never attain it if you don't have hayba for it. The hayba of the deen is that you must acknowledge, you must know that what Allah had given you of knowledge of deen is by far greater than the wealth of this entire dunya. This entire dunya as well. Put it all together. The deen that Allah has given you and the ilm that Allah has given you is greater than all of that. One mas'ala of deen is greater than all of that. Not the entire bab of fiqh or the entire book of ihya. Just one mas'ala, one hadith, one ayah. Better than all the... And therefore Al-Imam Abu Zayd al-Qayrawani, the author of Al-Risala, not Al-Risala, Al-Risala al-Qayrawaniya, yes. It's a Maliki book. It's like it's something similar to your Umdatul Salik in the Shafi'i madhab. It's like a middle Maliki text, fiqh text. So Sheikh Abu Zayd al-Qayrawani, who was a Maliki scholar, he sent his son to go learn the Quran. And then his son completed approximately 1/7 of the Quran, or 1/4 of the Quran. Approximately 1/4 of the Quran memorized. And when he completed that, so his father, Sheikh Abu Zayd al-Qayrawani, he gave a big mahfil. And he invited the people and he fed them, and he gave the Sheikh that taught his son this quote of the Quran, he gave him 1,000 dinars, 1,000 gold coins. Kathir, it's a lot of money. So the Sheikh, after, when he looked at this, he told the Sheikh Abu Zayd al-Qayrawani, says, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. What did I do? So he says, you don't deserve this. You taught my son the Quran, and you're telling me that you don't deserve it. You don't deserve to be teaching my son. A person who does not acknowledge the value of what he has cannot be teaching my son. Because how will you instill ta'zeem in his heart if you don't regard it, you have to be correct? If you think that the Quran that you've given him, one ayah cannot equate to the 1,000 dinars. What about a juz? What about 2 ajza? What about 3? So you also have an issue where you don't have ta'zeem of the kalam of Allah. I'm taking my son away from him, I'm going to take him to another muallim to teach him. So ta'zeem of the knowledge is extremely important, and that obviously has there's a different criteria when it comes to students of deen. We now, Imam Al Haddad is speaking simply just about the Ammi, about the common person. Don't tell me you must read these books, these long books, and he may not understand, he may not even find time, he may be discouraged. all he needs is just the essentials so he can couple. Just go on with his life. And then shay'an for shay'an he can increase. Now.
A scholar should not chat with those who chat, nor spend any of his time in other than strengthening religion. This that we have been stating, that the scholar is empathetic, enjoined to make his times with common Muslims fully occupied with teaching, warning and reminding them, has become in those days one of the most important duties of the learned. Heedlessness, ignorance and turning away from knowledge and its practice have become rampant among common people. Should the learned encourage them in this by failing to teach and remind them, corruption will dominate and everyone will come to harm. The neglect of religion by common Muslims is easily observable. While scholars maintain silence, neither teaching nor explaining, there is neither power nor ability save by Allah. It is one of the most imperative functions and courtesies of scholars to be for the people a good example, before they address them with their words, not to enjoin anything good upon them before being most careful to practice it, nor forbid anything evil to them without being most careful to avoid it and be most remote from it. They should also intend nothing with their knowledge, actions and teachings but Allah and the last abode, and not desire any other thing such as eminence, wealth, power or worldly things. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever seeks knowledge of the kind that is sought for Allah's sake, to boast before scholars, or argue with fools, or attract important people to himself, he will go to the fire. O Allah, make us profit from what you have taught us. Teach us what profits us and increase us in knowledge. Praise is Allah's in all situations. We seek Allah's protection from the states of the people of the fire.
Ameen ya Allah. Ameen ya Allah. Ameen ya Allah. And he says it's essential, imperative for the ulama that when there is ikhtisam, when the people come to them with the disputes, that they should instill fear within them for transgressing the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. False claims, false witnesses, false oaths. Person he makes a false claim. He comes and he says, Sheikh, Allah, this guy, he never ever paid me my money back. And then the other person says, Sheikh, Allah, I paid him money back. Who's the person speaking the truth and who's the person lying? Tell him, انظر, the two of you, one of you must be lying. One of you must be lying, because it's impossible that he never paid you, that you saying, Wallahi, he never paid me, and you saying, Wallahi, I paid him. And both of you are, because that's the opposite. It's not. One of you must be lying. شوف, اليمين الكاذبة, the person who lies, who takes an oath with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Already, a person should not be taking an oath for anything. Allah says, وَلَا تَجْعَلُوا اللَّهَ عُرْضَةً لِإِيمَانِكُمْ. Your Allah's an oath you shouldn't just use for every little thing. أَن تَبَرُّوا وَتَتَّقُوا وَتُصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Right? So, taking an oath by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is already big. Now you're taking an oath and you're lying. You know what is the consequence of using Allah's name for lies? Allah Ta'ala's curse. So the tahdidat must be there. And therefore when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, someone came to they were disputing about a piece of ground, and two companions were disputing a piece of ground, and the one said, Ya Rasulullah, هذه الأرض لي, and the other said, Ya Rasulullah, هذه الأرض لي. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he listened to the dispute. And so the Prophet ﷺ told him, إِنَّكُمْ تَخْتَصِمُونَ إِلَيْهِ. You present your disputes to me. وَلَعَلَّ بَعْضَكُمْ أَلْحَنُ فِي حُجَّتِي مِنْ بَعْضٍ. And some of you may be more eloquent in presenting his argument than others. وَإِنَّمَا أَقْضِي عَلَى نَحْوِ مَا أَسْمَعُ. And I only pass judgment on account of what I hear, of what you are telling me now. فَمَنْ قَضَيْتُ لَهُ مِنْ حَقِّ أَخِيهِ شَيْئًا فَإِنَّمَا أَقْطَعُ لَهُ قِطْعَةً مِنَ النَّارِ. The person, if I have given him anything that does not belong to him, if I'm giving him a part of his brother's haqq, then remember I've actually cut for you a part of the fire of Jahannam that I've given you. When the Sahaba heard both of them, Ya Rasulullah, I said, I said, Ya Rasulullah, فَتَنَاصَفَهُ النَّبِي, the Prophet ﷺ cut it off. He said, خلاص, you take the half and you take the other half. So it doesn't mean that because our judgment was passed, and this is a very important matter, that people think that the judge, he makes halal and he makes haram. He doesn't make, a qadi don't make halal and haram. A qadi only passes judgment based on what is in front of him. You may be wrong, but your evidence is more stronger than the person, than the opposing party. You, as the applicant, or the person who's claiming, the claimant, your argument may be stronger simply because you have your documentation. And the other person, his argument may be weak because he lacks documentation, or he doesn't have a representative, or he can't speak, or he doesn't have his facts in order. But he's actually on haqq, and you are wrong. Now the qadi listens and he says, حكمت في صالح المدعي. I pass judgment in favor of the applicant or the claimant. على المدعى عليه, against the person who is claiming against, or the respondent. And you must ولك أن تدفع إليه مبلغ كذا وكذا وكذا في ذمتك. And you are now indebted that you must pay him X amount of money. Now the applicant says, oh, alhamdulillah, I was right. You were not right. He didn't, all the judge, the qadi, all he did was, he based a judgment based on what was in front of him. Was he accurate in his judgment? Yes. He followed the laws of evidence, and he follows the iman and the shuhud, the witnesses, etc., etc. And that's what ma tabayyana lahum. But you know that money was not due to you. You can't say on the day of Qiyamah, Ya Allah, but the qadi al-khasiydat al-khiyam namaytukum. You can't. Allah said, Ana al-hakim. I am the hakim. Alaysa Allahu bi ahkam al-hakimin. Do you not know, ألا تعلم يوم كذا وكذا, so and so a day, that he did pay you your money back? He just never had the proof. But you remember, he paid you the money back. Yeah, there was a qadi. Qadi, تعال. The qadi, this day, so and so and so, he paid you the money back. What is your hukum? I said, Allah, إنما حكمت على نحو ما أسمع. I just gave judgment based on what is in front of me of evidence. Ya Allah, if he paid it, then this person is at wrong, at fault. So, on the day of Qiyamah, Allah Ta'ala speaks about it and he says, يَوْمَ تُبْلَى السَّرَائِرِ. The day when sara'ir, the secrets, that which is hidden, will become apparent. Allah says, إِذَا بُعْثِرَ أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. Whatever is within the heart will manifest. It will become like, whatever is hidden here will become like an open tray. And it will be exposed. What are you going to do? How are you going to answer? ما جوابك عند المساءلة وماذا تقول عند المقابلة. You're going to be meeting Allah, you're going to be interrogated. What are you then going to say? You say, the Qadi say, nafsi. What's going to worry about you? So he says, when people come with ikhtisam, always remind him of the wa'id. Remind him of the pitfalls and the dangers of taking the person's haqq. Remind him of the consequence of a false claim, a false testimony, and a false oath. Remind him about those things. And the severity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment. وعلى الجملة, and there was one qadi, I think he was in either Sheikh or Sayyid, one of the So they say he was a qadi for how many years? For years, like maybe 10 years. And no one came to him with any dispute. Not a single person came to him with a dispute. Eventually, one year, those two people come to him with a dispute. Someone came with a dispute. When they come to dispute, so they say, so he said, "Naam, Muddai, what is your dispute?" He says, "Ayyuha al-Qadi, Ayyuha al-Qadi, this man, I owe him this money, and he is denying that I'm owing him this money." And the Mudda'a alayhi is, "Ayyuha al-Qadi, I'm telling him that this money is not mine, and I am demanding that this money be his." So the Qadi said, "Shut up. What kind of dispute is this? What mukhasama is this?" So then he said, "Anta عندك أولاد?" You have children? I said, "You have a son?" I said, "Do you have a daughter?" I said, فزوجهما, and then you take the money and you give it to them. So they married the two children and they gave him the money to start their life. وهكذا, if people are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if they are aware, if the fear for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than the love for dunya, then they will forsake it just to be saved on the day of Qiyamah. They will forsake it. They will say, I don't, even if there is the slightest doubt that it may not be mine, or it, then they say, rather take it. For me to be saved on the day of Qiyamah is more important than having to explain to Allah Ta'ala why I thought it was mine. I don't want any questioning. I don't want any interrogation. Man nuqish al-hisab udhib. The Prophet says the one who's going to be interrogated by Allah, he's going to be punished. I want to enter Jannah without hisab, so I don't have time for this questioning. You take it rather. Take whatever you need to take. And at least I know I'm going to be free in front of Allah. That is when khashiyah overtakes the person. When khawf of Allah overtakes the person. But when love for wealth overtakes the person, فَيَتَحَجَّجْ وَيُبَرِّرْ, then he creates excuses and he creates justification as to why he is entitled to it, why he should, why. I say, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهِ. He says, وَلَكِنْ. Because when you tell him Allah and you tell him the Akhirah, it doesn't have it effect on his heart, because he doesn't have the khawf of Allah in his heart. Doesn't have the fear. The fear of Allah in the heart, the consequence will say, Allah is going to ask you on the day of Qiyamah, what are you going to do? ماذا تقول إن الله سائلك فماذا أنت قائل? What are you going to say? It's fine. لا أريدها. I'd rather give it to her. وهكذا. And this is وعلى الجملة, to summarize, it is necessary upon the ulama, when they're sitting with people, they should speak with them knowledge. When you sit with the people, speak about the ilm, speak about deen. If the scholar is not a person that you can find in his company, that he reminds you of Allah, or you increase in the knowledge of your deen, or you increase in fear of Allah, then who else is going to do it? If the ulama are not the conduit through which they are connecting people to the Rabb, to the Creator, then who else is going to do it? The ulama are those people that are expected that when you are sitting in the company, they draw you close to Allah. They speak about Allah. But now if the ulama is engaging in dunya, and all they speaking about is dunya, every time you see them it's dunya, it's business, it's this and that, and where are the people going to, how is people going to be connected to Allah? How are they going to, who's going to instill within them the fear of Allah? Who's going to make them love Allah? Who's going to be that person that when you look at him, then you are reminded of Allah, if it's not the ulama? Right? Speak to them. When you speak to people, Let your discussion primarily be around ilm. Speak to him about ilm. And he says, if he came for a need, then you speak to him about that which is relevant about his need. The person comes for a matter, and he's coming for an issue of a marital issue. Comes for a marital issue. It's not befitting you coming for a marital issue. And now you can speak to him about janaza. He's coming for a marital issue. My wife is not dead yet. I'm still very much alive. Right? We have an issue now. How do I deal with this? So he says, speak to him about the ahkam. When it comes to aqd nikah, you speak about the sadaq, the dowry. What the dowry is the haqq of the lady. What's the conditions of the dowry? أن يكون معلوما وأن يكون معينا. The conditions of the dowry. A person says, the dowry is that he must give me a house. They don't know the ahkam of that. My husband must give me, my husband must take me for Hajj in 10 years' time. Or whenever he can take me for Hajj. That's the problem. It's the problem with the dowry. What is it the 5-star package, or is it the 1-star package? Is it Azizia full stay, or is it Makkah full stay? What is it? Right? So it's real issues. The person I had a situation where the dowry was okay. We only got enrolled in later on when the divorce took place, but then the dowry was my husband must take me for Hajj. So I told the leader, how can you ask that? What is the is it based on what it was when you contracted, or is it based on when he was able to afford, which is in a few years, or is it based on now the divorce that took place? Because now the mahr becomes due, and then if you say it is now due, the mahr is now hal. It was mu'ajjal, it was deferred, but now it's become hal, it's become now due because of the talaq. So what is the package now? Which package are you going to say? He said, nee, ik kan niet afford om voor jou te sturen met zo'n expensive package. Je gaat voor jou sturen. Je gaat blij daar in die pegen. I can't afford camp A, what's it? Even camp C. I can't. You must sort yourself out. I can't. And it don't come with dam. You must pay your own dam. Right, so, and I can't send. I said, Hajj, I'm going to send you only for the days of Hajj. I'm not going to send you before. I'm not going to send you to Medina. Medina is not part of Hajj. I'm only going to send you. You're going to go straight from the airplane. You're going to go to Mina, Arafah, Muzdalifah, and then just the 2 days, and you must fly out again. And you must stay in Ihram. So I don't have money. So that is غير معلوم. It's unknown. It's not clear. So what's the حكم there is يرجع إلى مهر المثل. You return back to the مهر المثل, the dowry of مثل, of what is the standard dowry of the females من أقاربها وأخواتها وهكذا. Simple thing. As you know, but I want what's the sister, what is your cousin's kid, what is your sister's, what is your sister hoeveel je gevraagd? 100 rand? Nee, dat is wel die sister. My cousin, hoeveel je gevraagd? 50 rand! Right? So you see, it's important that these things has to be made clear. The lady, she's maybe now she's now in love with the guy, so she don't want to make it difficult on him. So she, whatever you want to give is not a dowry. So many times already I came to perform nikah, and we were sitting at the nikah, and I'm telling the husband what is a dowry. She says, I don't know. Allahu Akbar. Blank check. In that case, go back to Mahr al-Mithal. Go to the lady, say, no, actually didn't get to discuss it yet. Didn't discuss the dowry. So by asking Imam Shafi'i, in that case, if there's no mahr musamma, then you go back to mahr method. But I mean, it's important. Or someone say the mahr is he must give me a Quran. Now the hukum is, can the Quran be, is it mutaqawwim, tisamiyat, you can say it have value. على اختلاف بين العلماء. Some say that, so they go back to hadith, زوجتك بما معها من القرآن, but that the scholar said it's different. When the Prophet ﷺ said, the person said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't have anything. So he said, كم معك من القرآن? How much you have of the Quran? He said, Ya Rasulullah, I know this and this one. زوجتك بما معك من القرآن. I marry you that you teach her what you know of the Quran. But what he knew of the Quran was ma'loom, was known. He knew exactly of the Quran. So the sadaq, the rules of sadaq is important, it's essential. It's also important to know that the sadaq is a haqq of the lady. The husband can't say, خيمي مسكابي ترى. He can't. إلا إن طلقها قبل الدخول, before marrying her, before consummating, فلها he gets half of the dowry back. بعد الدخول خلاص. After consummating, mahr falls away. And if you didn't pay the mahr, and you talaq your wife, the full mahr becomes due immediately. Halan. That's why many of the Egyptians, they're actually scared to divorce their wives because the dowry is very expensive. Now, like they get the dowry is like 250,000 with gold and with a flat. It's all in the contract. And then he can't live anymore. They have arguments day and night, and he didn't even pay the money yet, and he didn't get a flat. So now, if he's gonna divorce her, then he must pay the full amount. I say, nah, khalas. living with her is better than having to work for the rest of my life to pay a flat. And then فَيَظْلِمُهَا, and then he harms her now, and he oppresses her, and it happens in the Gulf countries as well. And then he treats them harshly because there's now become like I paid a lot of money for you, so I'm going to take advantage, or I'm going to make your life hell. And subhanAllah, so we are very, very fortunate. We are extremely, we don't realize how fortunate we are within this country. And the Prophet said, خَيْرُ النِّسَاءِ أَقَلُّهُنَّ مَهْرًا. The best of females are the one whose mahr is very reasonable. I won't say little, it's reasonable. It's not, doesn't make it difficult on the person that wants to get married. One nafaqa, and nafaqa. Oh, nafaqa. Nafaqa is one of the things that so many males fall short in. Nafaqa is the most akid of the huquq of the zawjah, the most certain, clear, undisputed haqq that the wife has, that the zawjah has, that she must receive nafaqa. She must receive nafaqa. So many men fall short in nafaqa. The wife is working and the husband is a stay-home dad. You have a stay-home dad these days, and he's proud of a stay-home dad. Unless it's if it's an agreement, but the husband don't want to work. He's lazy. He's a lace. Right? He don't want to work. And he expects that the lady, she must work. Astaghfirullah. You're going to be answerable on the day of Qiyamah. الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. That nafaqa is the thing that granted Allah, through it granted you the authority, or one of the things that granted you authority. Man, it was like he's lost interest, and my vrouw say verdien meer as, doesn't matter. The barakah in your marriage if you go out and you go work. That's the barakah. Even if you earn a fraction of what your wife earns, the barakah is in your wealth. Not so much in hers. Yeah, inshallah, there's barakah, but I mean for the household, for the food that you consume, for the understanding in the marriage, the barakah is in your sustenance as a husband. Even with the little that you earn, Allah will place khair and barakah in it. But we're living in a society where we look at what the other person has. So because my friend, they are living a certain standard. Yeah, why can't my child also go to that school? Why can't my child also wear polo? Why must they only wear? Why can't I buy my? Uh, why can't you buy me a Kiwi? Why see my friends? They all wear Kiwis. You want to buy me? Uh, yeah. Okay. So yeah. So because of the people, they are not contented with what they have. Now they impose upon themselves certain standards that make their life so difficult. The husband must work and the wife must work because they want to live in lands now. Alright, so now not lands, but they want to live now in Constantia, Mathalan. Lansdowne is very affordable to live. They want to live in Constantia, so now the husband and the wife must work. Both of them must work. They can't afford one must stay at home and one. And now because we must have, both must have new vehicles, and we must have the latest phones, and the children must have contracts, and we place so much demands that the wife says, I don't actually want to work. I wish I can just stay at home and look after my family. But then said, you can't. Hoe gaat die bond gaan betalen? Who's gonna pay the contracts? Who's gonna pay the medical aid? Who's gonna? And because of that, that standard that you impose upon yourself, you've now forced your wife has to work. The result of that is there's no mother in the house. She leaves the house 6 o'clock in the morning. She comes back 6 o'clock in the evening. The children is for the entire day they're alone. They're being raised, if you're lucky, alhamdulillah, there's grandparents. Otherwise, it's a nanny, and it's a maid, and it's the neighbor, and it's the Montessori, and it is the creche. And when you eventually come home, you are so drained that the wife says, doesn't you pick up some takeaways from the street because I had a hectic day. But the children don't have wholesome food. All they eat is takeaways every single day of their life, every second day of their life. They come home, the father is so tired, he don't have time for his children. The children wants attention, but the father gives them, hey, take the tab and go play games, or go watch movies, or watch series, they watch YouTube. Next time, in the morning, the child wakes up, the mother is gone, and the father is gone, and the man is making him ready to go to school. That is Western system. We versus the mother by default supposed to be at home. She's not supposed to work. And if she does work, she can tell you, I don't want to give you anything of my money. This is mine. I'm gonna go for a manicure and pedicure and a facial and a this and a that. But you, whatever you earn, your duty is to make sure that we are sorted and that we have a roof over our head and ja, maar jy verdien so baie geld. Dis my geld. You must look after us. So she sits at home. MashaAllah, she makes the lunch for them. They eat, they at school, they eat lunch. It was prepared by a Muslim person, a mother with love and salawat and pacha and bismillah. When they come home, the mother's there to sit with them, to welcome them, give them a hug. They salah together, they go to, the mother takes them to madrasa. She sees the difference between the two lives. And that is the consequence of us falling into the trap of secularism and the Western societies. And this happens, the main reason why this happens is because we look at them with the eye of ta'zim. We admire their life. We watch too much movies, we watch too much series, and we think that the way they're living is the perfect life, is the best life. It is the worst life. There is no better life than the life of Sayyidina Muhammad. Sayyidina Khadija is the perfect example. She had the business, she had the wealth, but she didn't go work. she raised her children, and she made Rasulullah the partner. She never ever once in her life threw it in his face that, yeah, I made you a partner in my business, or I spent upon you, or I did. She was the most humble of wives. She was the perfect wife. When the Prophet ﷺ was in need of consolement, she was there to console him. When he received wahi and he was in a state of seeing Jibreel alayhi salam and receiving wahi for the first time, the Prophet came and said, Ya Khadija, zammilini, zammilini, dattirini, dattirini, cover me, cover me. And he said, لَقَدْ أُوتِيتُ أَمْرًا عَظِيمًا, I've been given a great thing. And the Prophet, then she raises his spirit and she says that, Wallahi lan yukhziyaka Allahu abada, Allah will never forsake you. إِنَّكَ لَتَصِلُ الرَّحِيمِ وَتَكْسَبُ الْمَعْدُومِ وَتُعِينُ عَلَى نَوَائِبِ الدَّهْرِ. You are the one that join family ties. You are the one that assists the person that is in need. You are the one that's always there for people in the difficulties. You are. Wallahi, oh Muhammad, lan yukhziyaka Allah abada. Allah will never forsake you. He lays in her lap and she comforts him and she consoles him. That is the wife. And that is the mother. And that is how our home should be like. And that is what we should aspire to be. Not the homes of the fasiqeen and the homes of the kafirin and the homes of al-maghdubi alayhim and the homes of the dhalleen. Our homes must be like the home of Sayyidina Muhammad. Salawatu Rabbi wa salam. And then who came from that home? Sayyidina Fatima. Who was her children? Sayyidina Al-Hasan, Sayyidina Al-Hussein. So that is the people that we should aspire to be like. Ya Rabbi falhiqna bihim. Ya Rabbana. نعم. والمعاشرة بالمعروف, and to treat the spouse with ma'roof, with that which is good, and not to wrong them. A person, if he's in a monogamous marriage, you know it's monogamous.
Explain.
Huh?
Explain.
Eh?
One single.
Single marriage, yeah. I just want to make sure I'm speaking right. Just if it's a monogamous marriage, then that's his duties of his wife is different to a person that is in a polygamous marriage. Really different. And how you want to enter into, you want to get married again. Do you know the ahkam of polygamy? Do you know what it means to have another wife? Do you know that it's lekker moes nog 'n vrou te pak. A person who gets married and he doesn't fulfill the haqq of the other wife and he makes more of the one than the other, جاء يوم القيامة وشقه مائل. He will come on the day of Qiyamah and his half of his side will be like his cripple, because he inclined more towards the one than the other. There's huquq. She can claim from me on the day of Qiyamah. She says, Ya Allah, he did this for that and he didn't do it for me. He gave. So these are important. If the person is someone that wants to enter into polygamy, then he must know the ahkam. In the same way, a person who wants to enter into business must know the ahkam of business. The person who wants to enter into a nikah, he needs to know the rules of nikah. The person who wants to enter into another nikah must know the rules of the second nikah. And the ahkam of polygamy and al-qasam bayna al-zawjat, how to split your time between the wives. If you go to the one wife and it is not darura, it is not a necessity, at the time of the other wife, what is the hukum of that? Is it jaiz? Haram, you can't. Unless it is darura. If it is darura, how long are you spending there? Are you just spending enough for the time of the darura? Or are you spending a darura and there's enough time still for a whatever it is now, for a khasiyal cup, whatever, right? You must make it up. If you don't make it up, it's a haq. And the night, وَالْيَوْمُ تَابِعٌ لِلَّيْلِ. Are you applying the fact that the day precedes the night or the day follows the night? If the day follows the night, in the day you're not doing anything and you're not working and you're going to the wife, then the one you spend the night with is the one that you should be going to, not the one that is with. And if you go to that, right? So these are ahkam. These are things that people know. Do they know it when they enter into polygamous marriages, or do they not know it? If they don't know it, then they are falling short. They are not fulfilling the haqq of their wives. And may Allah grant us understanding, Ya Rabbi, of our deen. وَمَا يَجْرِي هَذَا الْمَجْرَى. And he says what follows along these lines. And when it comes to عقد البيع, business transactions, and the scholar is required to write the contract out, then he must explain to them the hukum of witnesses and what the requirements of the witness are, and what is the conditions of the witness, and what bay' is sahih and what bay' is fasid, what transaction is valid and which one is fasid. Na'am. And he says these are the types of discussions you should have in majalis, as opposed to speaking unnecessary things. You in a majlis where the person is coming to you and you want to speak about Manchester United, you want to speak about this, you want to speak about that. That's not important. That's irrelevant. That is, these times for that, if you need to speak about it, even though it's unnecessary, in any case, to speak about those things. But if you want to speak about it, this is not the time. This person has a need, and you as a alim, your duty is you need to see to that person's need. Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam. And then he says, وَلَا يَنْبَغِي لَعَلْمَ أَنْ يَخُوضَ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ وَلَا أَنْ يَصْرِفَ شَيْئًا مِنْ أَوْقَاتِهِ فِي غَيْرِ قَامَةِ الدِّينِ. The alim is a person that stands out. He doesn't engage in the same frivolous discussion that everyone else is engaging. People are now speaking about auras of people. Now the alim also wants to contribute, and he also now wants to. No. It's not. لا يليق بالعالم. But you as a scholar, you need to set the bar for the nature of discussion that should take place in your company. And when people, the very least is when people are speaking and you enter, then they should know that they should desist from the speaking if it's haram speech. Because they know that there's haibah for the ilm, and that this is a person, he doesn't want people to speak unnecessary within his. Now the alim comes in and is speaking about fulanun wa fulanun wa fulan. And the alim also adds, oh, wa fulanun wa fulan wa fulan. Okay, let's ammo. It's not befitting for a scholar to engage in those discussions, and that his time should be spent in other than establishing the deen. Subhanallah, these as we're reading these paragraphs, and as I'm explaining it, I have a very clear and a very vivid is clear. No? I have a very clear image of our mashayikh when it comes to this, and how they set the precedent in how a person should be. Like, you don't find them engaging in talks that are in vain, talks that are frivolous, talks that have no benefit. If you sit in a company, if there's a moment of silence, then they say, Man yaqra, who's going to read? Either you're asking a mas'ala, or you are seeking some advice, or if it's a moment of silence, it's a moment of dhikr, or then the book starts coming out. And in the person, there's no time for speaking unnecessary. No time. If they speak about other people, then it's inquiring about the state of the ummah. What's the condition of the da'wah? How's the ulama? How's the shaykh? How's that shaykh? Baligh salamana, convey our salam. Else beyond that, there's no time to speak about people and people's a'rad and people's dignity and people's awrat, and there's no time. And then he says, he concludes the chapter of ilm by saying that it's also from the imperatives of the wadha'if, of the duties and the etiquette of the alim, that he should speak to the people by his actions before his words. His actions should speak before his words. When they see him, and this is subhanallah haqiqatan, I mean, those who visited the lands of Tarim, especially the students, they would tell you that they would look at the ulama, and they would look at the hawa, and they would see certain things, and they wouldn't understand immediately. And then afterwards, when they read the books, they would say that it's a sunnah to do this, and it's a sunnah to do that, at this time it's a sunnah to do that. And those who have met them and spent time in their company, they would realize this. I remember once when we were when our teacher Sayyid Umar came down, and then we were driving between programs, and then as we were driving, um, there was a fire, like a bushfire, no? And then we were busy. Habib was busy. He was we were reading some awrat, or maybe someone was speaking to him, was asking him a question. Yeah, I think someone was speaking to him and asking him a question. And then, so it's remember silent. Someone's asking a question, and the rest of the man is just quiet or speaking, and just all of a sudden, and there's a fire, and you see Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. He's cracking what's happening now, like loud. Okay, just passed by and said, okay, I don't know what that was, what I think. Later on, we read in the Kitab al-Adhkar of Imam al-Nawawi, and it's what you and it's sunnah when he sees a fire that he should make takbir. Now, my question is like, how often do you see a fire? So how often do you get to implement the sunnah? And probably by the chance you see the fire, you would have forgotten that you read that maybe like 10 years ago. Because you don't read it every day. You read it 10 years ago. So you see the fire like, whoa, that's your first, oh, it's a big fire. And then you ask you like, hey, what am I supposed to do now? Oh, takbir, Allahu Akbar. But you read it like, yo, this is a gevaarlijk, yo. No. But when your life becomes a carbon copy of the sunnah, then the first response that you have before your normal response, no?
Your knee-jerk reaction.
Nothing. Isn't it like other words? Like your instinct. Your instinct response, your first response would be the sunnah. That is, if your life is completely in line with sunnah, then you don't know any other response other than the response of the sunnah. And even every moment when you are faced, your first response, your first response would be, what did Rasulullah do? Your first response would be, what did Rasulullah do? But generally, that's when you are given a time to process and to think, and now you apply your mind, okay, the books that say that the hadith is, and now you respond. But a level higher than that is when your life becomes his, and your desires becomes his. Salawatu Rabbi wa salamu alayhi. Like the Prophet says, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به. Your iman you will only reach that perfect level of iman when your inclinations is that which he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came with. And once your hawa becomes what he came with, then your instinct no longer becomes the normal human instinct. Then your instinct becomes the instinct of Sayyidina Muhammad. So even at the time when your mind is not really, you're not yet processing it, but because you are so in tune with the Sunnah, your instinct becomes immediately to follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah. And those are some of the lessons that one learns when one spends time with the company of the Salihin. Now, يكلم الناس بفعله, and this the lesson is that, so in this example, I didn't know why that I needed to make takbir. So a lesson was learned first, what? In the action. And then afterwards, then I came and I read and said, so the scholar spoke to me with his actions before he spoke with his words, or even without having to speak with his words. I'll give you another example. So we're at Zavia with Habib, right? It's a Friday. So now the whole trip, that time I only had one turban. So the whole trip, I'm wearing this one turban. Alright? Come Friday, my turban is dirty. Alright? So I say, okay, I can't go with a dirty turban. I'm not going to go without a turban. I got no turban to my masjid. So Habib is sitting in the translator, and I'm sitting next to him. So Habib looks, and then he tells the translator, telling him that if he was to wear a turban, then Jum'ah is more befitting for him to wear the turban. So he tells me, Habib says that if you should wear turban for Jum'ah, Jum'ah is more like that you should wear turban as opposed to other days. And then later on I come to read in the seerah that the Prophet ﷺ never used to address the companion directly out of fear that he may hurt the person. So he used to use ishara via other companions to speak to him in order not to directly offend the person. بفعله قبل قوله, with his actions before his statements. Where did this come from? This is when the person becomes a living example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is the meaning that Allah Ta'ala says وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ فِيكُمْ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ, and know that within you is Rasulullah, meaning that his sunnah is alive within you, and when he is alive within you, then it is as if he is alive. Well, he is alive, but it means as if he is literally alive, salawatu rabbi wa salam, because his sunnah is with us wherever we go. He is in every single person. There is a Muhammad sallallahu. And this is what we need to bring alive within us. How can we become Muhammadiyun, prophets, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu? How can we become embodiments of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Imagine if this entire room now of us sitting here, maybe even around 30 or whatever, if you become, even of us become Muhammadiyun.
I mean,
Carbon copies of the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imagine how much change you can bring into the world without having to speak. I'm speaking now for the past 60 minutes maybe. I wouldn't have to speak if I was a Muhammadi. You wouldn't have to speak because your actions is going to speak. Your akhlaq is going to speak. Your hal, your state is going to speak. When people look at you, they see al-mu'min إذا رؤية, not إذا تكلم. A believer, when you look at him, يشعر ذكر الله. You say, oh, La ilaha illallah. You remember Allah. The Prophet said when he speaks, anyone can speak. Anyone can speak. How much have you been speaking now? Anyone can do this without doing. But how many people that when you look at him, just by looking at him, you don't need to speak. You remember Allah. You change your life. You want to become a better person. And that is what we need to aspire to become. And that will only become a reality when our internal becomes better than our external. When our hal becomes greater than our maqal. And when our zahir, our batin, overpowers our zahir. For as long as we are zahiris, and zahiri is not as in the followers of the madhab, zahiri madhab. Zahiri is like people that just focus on the apparent, on the outer. And the batin is غير معمور. It is not غير معمور. And it is not no it is your batin is like it's corrupt, it is nothing, it's non-existent. So it's not established. Your batin is not established. The only thing established is the outer form. Then there'll be no hal, there'll be no state. It will just be physical, external. But the lub, the kernel, is nothing. There's no kernel. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rectify our state. Ya Rabbi. Allah grant us to be from those that the batin is greater than the zahir. The inward is greater than the outward. And allow outward to be salih, to be upright, to be correct. Ya Rabb. Ya Rabb al-Alameen. Ya Rabb al-Alameen. Imam Al Haddad in his Risalat Mu'awana, he says a Sufi is the person who, if you were to take the if you were to take his inside and to display it on a platter, and you walk with it in the marketplace and you see this is what's in his heart, then you wouldn't be ashamed with anything that is on it. That's a Sufi. And to know who's a Sufi, that's a Sufi. We must all become Sufis. People of tasawwuf, people who purify themselves. Man tasaffa tasaffahu Allah. A person who's purified himself, and in return Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has elected him. Allah has chosen him. May Allah not make that our only share of the deen is kalam, speech. There must be ahwal, there must be states. And it must not be fake states, it must be true ahwal, true states, true maqamat. Not just kalam, but maqam. But speech, but stations. Hum darajatun inda Allah. They are the ones that hold stations with Allah. Not inda nas, not with people. Today we aspire to please people, and people must think good of us. People must follow us. People must like us. People must share us. And that is the zahir. But how many of those people are liked by Allah and are liked by the malaika? How many people, they are well known on the earth, but they are anonymous in the sama? They have millions of followers on earth. Millions of followers. Millions of followers. But in the sama, Wallahi, la yazinu inda Allahi janaha ba'udah. He is not the weight of a mosquito in the sight of Allah. He doesn't, bal akhassu is worse than it. And how many people are not known on this earth? They don't have a single follower. But Allah, by Allah, a drop of his blood by Allah is more heavy than the mountain of Uhud. One drop, one of his hairs. If he was to take an oath by Allah, the Prophet says, if he was to take an oath by Allah, Allah will say, fulfill his request. لو أقسم على الله لأبره. You know what that means? If you say, Wallahi, you are not going to be successful. Wallahi, Shaykhan Chivas. I heard someone say that. Once. He said, Shaykhan Chivas. And I just thought it sounded like a hectic word. It sounds like a dangerous word. So he said, Wallahi, Shaykhan Chivas. That sounds like hectic, no? But it sounds hectic. Yeah, so whatever that means, then it happens. It's gonna happen. Alright? لو أقسم على الله, Allah, ya Allah, you must send down rain now. Wallah, ya Allah, you must send rain now. The rain comes down. إن لله عبادا من لو أقسم على الله لأبر قسمه. If he was to take an oath by Allah, Allah will fulfill his oath. What is his condition? ذي طمرين مدفوع بالباب أشعث أغبر. He is unkempt. He has two old tattered garments stuck in. مدفوع بالباب. If you see him at the door, knocking on the door, you say, gaat weg man. Jay, stink of Jay. Kijk hoe lekker Jay. Kijk het weer. مدفوع بالباب. People chase him away from their doors. But he's on the door of Allah. He's on the door of Allah. If he knocks on Allah's door, Allah opens up. And Allah says, لبيك يا عبدي. What do you want? These people that have those stations with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala grant us those stations. And allow not only our own share of the sunnah be the zahir. MashaAllah. It's got the qamis, it's got the MashaAllah. It's just mazahir. All the mazahir will disappear. And Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, when he was seen after his death, so they told him, ما فعل الله بك? What did Allah Ta'ala do with you? He said, طارت العبارات. طاحت العبارات وفنيت الإشارات ولم يبقى لنا إلا ركعتين كنا نصليهما في وسط الليل. He says, all my ibara, all my words is gone. All my statements has disappeared. The only thing that I saw that benefited me was 2 rakahs that I made in the middle of the night. We have awliya, gathering. الله أعلم. عسى نكون منهم يا رب. اللهم كسر من يا رب العالمين. من أهل الباطن يا رب. From the people that hold inner secrets. من أهل الأسرار يا رب. People that hold secrets, divine secrets from you يا رب. من أهل التقريب يا رب. From the people who are drawn near to you يا رب العالمين. آمين يا رب العالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سر الفاتحة إلى حضرة النبي.
اللهم صل وسلم على
ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم. اللهم انا نسالك رضاك والجنه ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم اخرج من قلوبنا كل قدر للدنيا او محل للخلق يميل منها الى معصيتك او يشغلنا عن طاعتك او يحول بيننا وبين التحقق معرفتك الخاصه ومحبتك الخالصه او يحول بيننا وبين التحقق معرفتك الخاصه ومحبتك الخالصه أو يحول بيننا وبين التحقق معرفتك الخاصة ومحبتك الخالصة. اللهم ارزقنا معرفتك يا ربنا يا كريم. اللهم تجلى علينا بأسمائك وصفاتك واجعلنا يا إلهنا ممن اصطفيتهم وقربتهم وأدنيتهم منك من حبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. واربطنا بك وبنبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ربطا لا ينحل ورقنا معه إلى أعلى المحل. اللهم إنا نسألك أن ترزقنا مرافقة مولى بلال وأن تجعلنا معه على كل بال وأن تعطينا يا مولى الموال عطاء بغير حساب ولا حسبان يا أرحم الراحمين. يا من يعطي ولا يبالي يا مولى الموالي يا من قلت إن هذا لرزقنا ما له من نفاد. أسألك لا يا إلهنا أن تعطينا من أرزاقك الحسية والمعنوية ما أنت له أهل لا ما نحن له أهل. ما أنت له أهل لا ما نحن له أهل. فأنت أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة ونحن أهل التقصير وأهل المعاصي وأهل الذنوب وأهل السيئات وأهل الخذلان. أسألك يا إلهنا ألا تعاملنا بما نحن له أهل ولكن عاملنا بما أنت له أهل يا رب العالمين. اللهم عاملنا بفضلك ولا تعاملنا بعدلك. اللهم عاملنا بفضلك ولا تعاملنا بعدلك يا رب العالمين. اللهم عاملنا بالإحسان ولا تعاملنا بالميزان. اللهم عاملنا بالإحسان ولا تعاملنا بالميزان. اللهم قربنا من المصطفى عدل من عدلان يا رب الأكوان يا رب الأكوان يا رب العالمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين. بارك لنا في أيام رمضان ولياليه واجعلنا من أهل التقريب في هذه الأيام وأنزل علينا من جودك ونفحاتك التي تنزلها على أوليائك وأصفيائك وارزقنا منها أوفر الحظ والنصيب. اللهم إنا نسألك ونتوسل إليك بنبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبي الرحمة. يا محمد إنا نتوسل بك إلى الله في حوائجنا لتقضى ومن أهمها أن نكون معك في الجنة. اللهم ارزق أن نرزق مرافقتك في الجنة وأن ترضى عنا يا إلهنا رضا لا سخط بعده أبدا. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. باعد بيننا وبين خطايانا كما باعدت بين المشرق والمغرب. اللهم بلغنا ليلة القدر صيامها وقيامها على الوجه الذي يرضيك عنا. اللهم صل إخواننا المجاهدين المستضعفين في كل مكان خصوصا إخواننا المرابطين في سبيلك في بيت المقدس وأكناف بيت المقدس وغزة ورفح والضفة الغربية. اللهم انصرهم على أعدائك وأعدائهم يا قوي يا جبار يا متين يا رب العالمين يا رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. مثل الفاتحة إلى حضرة الفاتحة. عندك نشيد؟ عندك شيء؟ شيء بسيط.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله. حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله على الهادي صلى الله
الله ما في قلبي غير الله على الهادي صلى الله لا إله إلا الله أنت الشافي أنت الكافي في مهمات الأمور أنت الشافي أنت الكافي في مهمات الأمور أنت ربي أنت حسبي أنت لي نعم الوكيل حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله على الهادي صلى الله لا إله إلا الله لا تدبر لك أمرا فأولو التدبير هلك سلم الأمر إلى الله هو أولى بك منك حسبي ربي جل الله ما في قلبي غير الله على الهادي الله لا إله إلا الله رفقا رفقا في أحد رفقا رفقا في الفؤاد رفقا رفقا في أحد رفقا رفقا في الفؤاد من لي إذا خذوا لقلبي من لي إذا خذوا لقلبي شددوني بالمواهب خذوا مني فؤادي شددوني بالمواهب خذوا مني فؤادي من لي إذا خذوا لقلبي من لي إذا خذوا لقلبي أحسنتم. لا إله إلا الله.